Then, of course, slide about a competition. I know there are a couple of founders who say, you know, we're so revolutionary, nothing like this exists in the world, there's no competition, awesome. Well, yes, but no. Like, if that's a brilliant idea enough, most probably there will be, like, as I've said, saying, like, 10 other startups working on that idea. I'm telling you that because throughout the last 6 months, I have reviewed 3,000 pitch decks. That's a lot of pitch decks. And for every good idea, there's at least 5 more ideas who do the same in a bit different, twisted way. So like, don't be ignorant, so ignorant that like nobody has ever thought of that. Most probably somebody has, but you just have to acknowledge that. And of course, there are cases where, you know, products revolutionize the industry and it's completely something new. But then you should really explain how the industry is really revolutionary. Like, how is it like nothing existed before? And yeah, that's essentially what's important. So again, lastly, the important thing is about the market and the growth potential of the market. And the last, but really not least, is about the funding. Like first, how much are you raising? Maybe how much have you raised? As well as what are your milestones for the next 18 months? Please state it clearly. What are you raising the money for? Otherwise, you're like, okay, this guy wants like $500,000 for what? For a nice office in Bali? You really want to understand how will this person spend the money so that you can really make a decision, right? So this is like a lengthy one. We could talk about each and every of these positions for like, you know, 5 to 10 minutes, and it would be like a very good intro about how to make a pitch deck. But if there's one thing I want you to leave you with, is that every slide most probably takes like a week to be crafted brilliantly, and you will never be ready with this brilliant, awesome pitch deck. But taking this into account and asking the right questions on the way really helps. So there's no such thing as perfect pitch deck, but there's such thing as good pitch deck. So let's aim for making good ones, right? So key takeaways after this. So that was a long monologue of mine. So first, as I said, it's really important to identify the right investors. It's even more important to get introductions to them and stalk them and understand how can you get to these particular investors. Then it's really important to move these investors along the pipeline and not let them sit in the lead stage for too long, but you really want to get answers from them. And lastly, it's having a solid info pack, just what we talked about. Having everything ready. Having this whole thing, like, you know, okay, you can tweak it a little bit for every investor, but generally I would suggest like having this pack ready so that you don't waste like weeks, you know, saying, okay, I'm redoing my pitch deck, sorry, I'm in a rush, I'll get back to you in 2 months. Like, no. If you have the lead hot, and if you're approaching the fundraising process, you should have an info pack ready and be ready to kill it, and to overkill it, obviously. So, any questions about us, maybe? I hear you not nodding, but doing this thing. Good. So now I think I have sort of told you how to talk to investors, and here's one investor. So standing in front of you, we're investing in B2B software startups, and I'm going to tell you what do we do, and here's some pitches afterwards. This was like a very bad transition from one thing to another. So, we are a venture capital fund. Okay, people are already leaving. I'm kidding, it's fine. Don't take it personally.
He's B2C.
Here goes the impact technology. Here goes everything. Nice knowing you.
He wants to do his pitch deck while he has it in the memory.
So, what Overkill is? So, Overkill is a venture capital fund investing in B2B software startups doing mentorship programs. We are something in between a regular venture capital fund and an accelerator. Something in the top of that. I'll tell you the difference now. So, this is how the startup journey looks like. And I don't need to tell you that. So, first you have an idea, most of you had at some point. Then you tell it to your buddy over a beer, the next buddy over a beer, and one of the buddies is like, oh, that's awesome, I want to join that. And then you start forming a team, more buddies join, more beer comes. You build an MVP, that's awesome, you have some sort of a product. Then you start with this product, you start going to conferences because you have a product. And you're like, hey, I have this awesome product. Take a look at it. And then you start understanding that people don't like the product. And you're like, oh, but I mean, that was fun. That was beers and networking and everything. But then you start hitting the market, and that's what essentially this failed journey is called product market fit. I hope you're all scared already. Like, that's usually the scariest things for startups. what is that, product market fit, and that's the death alley where you try to rebuild the product, try to understand what the market actually wants, not just your hypotheses. And then you start arriving to not an MVP, but actually a product that is driven on a customer insight and something that you actually have inquired from actually doing interviews and talking to people. Then after that, there are a lot of fails in between, but like essentially you arrive at some point, hopefully, to revenue and to business, at least in some cases. So, and in all of this, there is an ecosystem player playing to raise this idea. So for accelerators, it's usually the stage of an MVP and team. It's usually the guys who have just started working with, and accelerators do like the basic stuff and they cover it really brilliantly. Without them, it wouldn't work like that because you need this platform that supports. And then there's venture capital funds who usually avoid this first part, let the first ideas die in the valley, and then start working with the ones who already have some product, some perhaps revenue attraction, and actually are ready to move on from that. So essentially here is like what accelerators traditionally offer a very widespread array of things. Like you can get this and that. It's like a all-you-can-eat buffet. You can go there and you can grab everything, stuff your stomach, and then hope that it was delicious. And then there's like the individual needs of every startup. And that we know from working with dozens and dozens of startups across our previous organizations. And that's how we developed a mentorship program, which is a tailored mentorship program, which is essentially examining every startup that is in our batch, outlining what they need, and then doing the mentorship program tailored only to what they need. Like we have a case, we have guys who are doing reselling of used items, and their mentors are chief commercial officers from eBay, for instance. We really try to find the guys who are the best at what they do and connect them with them. So yeah, and this is the mentorship program we offer. So it comes together with a funding of 40K. It's a really decent pre-seed amount for this region. It would be 120K in London, as you remember. So it's essentially a 3-month tailored mentorship program. We bring in 10 kick-ass mentors and startups. No, we bring 10 kick-ass startups and a lot of mentors. And co-working space, but the difference is that you don't have to relocate your whole team to Riga to make this happen, right? The thing is that it's a lightweight thing, and it only works with the founders. Because what we have understood in the work with all the startups is that it's really important to work with the founding team, because then they can bottom down, distribute the knowledge across the team, and that really reduces the costs actually. So the next batch will start in February 4. And run for 3 months. So essentially the commitment there is being 1 week a month in Riga, and then fly in or do remotely a couple of days a week with mentors, with experts, to really help you nail down all the things you are questioning. So how the mentorship program is structured: we have lead mentors for every startup, the eBay story I told, and then we have office hours with the partners in the team who are basically like your psychologists, who meet you every week and examine, okay, they hold your hand and ask, how are you doing? Are you fine? In a more aggressive manner. How are you doing? It's going bad. But essentially, you get the point. Then we have workshops. We do individual workshops with founders. It's like business inside out. We do 2 hours with every team. We try to, it's whiteboard, pen and paper, and a lot of tears and stuff, and understanding how you can make this startup better. And then we also do group workshops, which are generally across the different thematics, across beachhead, like product market fit, UX, product development, pricing, positioning, sales, investor meetings, and all that. But our main target is to teach founders to sell and to fundraise. These are 2 key areas that in this region is struggling the most. Because usually founders from this area have awesome tech, but really very rare skill to sell. And lastly, we also do events. We bring our startups to VC funds in London, and Berlin, and Helsinki. We help them raise the next round, so we're doing the pre-seed investment, and then us as a fund, we also do seed investments. Not in every team, but we do 40K, the mentorship program, and then we also do 250K for some of the teams. And yeah, so we have a couple of events throughout the programs to make it fun and meaningful. And so our investment strategy is B2B software. It's early revenue or, some revenue or just vision of revenue. And we work across Central and Eastern Europe. That's the reason why I'm here. More Eastern than Central, I'd say, because Riga is Eastern enough. And so what we look for, this is something that you would normally find in our slides or somewhere, but that's what I said. I'm telling you, when you conduct your investor pipeline, you need to understand what these investors are looking for. So I'm giving you straight away what are we looking for. So it's a strong team, it's potential for outsized returns, or the market, and the traction and proof from the market actually. So we look for an experienced team usually, for ability to execute in the required skills. Then we also look for potential of outsized returns or a big market essentially. And of course we love to see when there's actually not only the startup has this problem, but there's actually some market player who also needs this. So this is essentially 3 things that if you're making a pitch deck or whatever for us, this is something I highly suggest covering, taking that into account. And lastly, of course, we also have done 4 investments so far. So we have a Polish company, iMesha, which is a 3D file collaboration platform for game developers. It's sort of like an InVision for game development studios. They have already folks from Oculus and Microsoft using their software. Then we have Fab Control that are building one of the largest operating systems for production 3D printers. These guys, the team has actually built already one of the leading 3D printing manufacturers in Europe, and now they're developing software for that. Then we have Localist, the fastest way to sell second-hand items. And we have Axdraft, which is so Localist is a Danish company, Fab Control is a Latvian company, and Axdraft is actually a Ukrainian company. The guys come from Kyiv, and they do automated legal document drafting, and they have few clients across British American Tobacco, Carlsberg, and various other big players. They're doing really, really good. So whenever you sort of are questioning, there's sort of the first investments we have done. We are going to do a lot more in the next few years, but we have just started a couple of 5 to 6 months ago. So this is the team. So we have Peter and David, who come from the Techstars and Accelerates. We have they all together are both like previous startup founders and investors. David himself manages a 500 startup portfolio in Denmark. It's one of the largest actually funds across Nordics. And Peter brings in experience from Seattle, from Techstars, which sort of also brings in the network, and all the mentors that we have are either from US, from UK, from the Scandinavian region. So we actually are exposed to somebody more experienced in that field. And then we also have the team of Dmitry, me, myself, and Chris. So Dmitry brings in the Big 4 experience. Me, myself, I'm also previously doing a lot of startup stuff and working in Microsoft as well. And we have Chris, who actually is, perhaps you know Garage 48. He is basically built that stuff. He's operationally managing. He used to operationally manage Garage 48. Now he has moved to other ventures, but with his sort of community experience, we drive this all together. So that's it from my side. I hope it was somehow useful, and thank you. So as promised, there are 6 startups who are going to pitch today. Do we have everyone in the room who is pitching? Can I have your hands up? 1, 2, there's lots of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, excellent. So we're going to have like a 15-minute break to decompress a bit. That has a lot of information. And so feel free to grab a beer or a snack, and then we're going to hear the startup pitches. And wait. Shh. I'm bad at making sounds, she's good at it. So please, if you haven't signed up, so we have a government representative here, and she needs everyone's signature on a paper. So please, if you haven't signed up, please do so. Otherwise, feel free to have a snack, and let's see each other in 15 minutes, okay?